Before we dive in, drop your city or country in the comments. We want to see how far this story travels. What happens when justice wears rags? Tonight's story will challenge your assumptions, break your heart, and leave you stunned. Because not every man in rags is powerless. Sometimes he's the law. It was a quiet winter night on the edge of the city. The streets were nearly empty. The only sounds were distant sirens and the creaking of old shopping cart wheels. A man slowly pushed a cart full of worn-out books and folded blankets. He wore a torn coat, frayed gloves, and boots held together by duct tape. His beard was thick, his shoulders hunched, but his eyes were clear, calm, observant. Streetlights flickered above him as he walked. Then, headlights swept across the pavement. A police cruiser rolled to a stop beside him, engine still running. Two officers inside watched him closely. The cruiser door swung open. A young officer stepped out, smirking. "Hey, you lost or something?" he called. His partner followed, already reaching for his belt. "What's in the cart?" the second one demanded. The man looked up and answered calmly, "Just books." But they weren't listening. "No ID," the first officer barked. "Figures." They laughed under their breath, homeless but polite. "That's a first." The man stayed still, didn't flinch. That seemed to annoy them more. "Turn around and place your hands on the hood," one ordered. The other tightened his grip on his flashlight. The tension thickened. It was beginning. Without warning, the taller officer grabbed the man's arm and shoved him hard against the hood of the cruiser. His shopping cart clattered to the ground. "Hands on the car." "Now," one ordered sharply. Despite the rough treatment, the man remained calm. "Please," he said quietly, "I need to reach into my pocket for my ID." But they ignored him, already pulling out handcuffs. The younger officer tightened his grip on the man's wrist, preparing to cuff him, assuming he had every right because of how he looked. The man took a slow, steady breath and reached into his inner coat pocket. With deliberate calm, he pulled out a worn leather case. Click, he flipped it open. The dull metal of a Supreme Court badge gleamed under the streetlight. Both officers froze, staring at the shiny emblem stamped with official seals. The laughter and sarcasm vanished instantly. Silence fell heavy over the cold night air as the shocking truth revealed itself. The younger officer blinked rapidly, his mouth slightly open. "This has to be fake," he muttered, his voice cracking with uncertainty. The older officer looked down at the badge, then back up, his face pale and silent. The man met their eyes steadily. "My name is Justice Elijah Monroe," he said, softly, his voice calm but firm. The weight of his words hung between them like a challenge, one they couldn't ignore or deny. Justice Monroe looked at the officers and spoke quietly. "I'm not going to yell. I'm not pressing charges." His voice was calm but full of meaning. "But I want you to remember this moment for the rest of your careers." Without another word, the officers silently removed his cuffs. One stammered an apology, while the other avoided eye contact. The quiet dignity in his actions left a powerful impression, one far stronger than anger or threats ever could. Unbeknownst to the officers, a bystander had recorded the entire encounter on their phone. The next morning, the video spread like wildfire across social media. Headlines screamed, "Supreme Court Justice mistaken for homeless man by racist cops." Millions watched in disbelief as the video sparked outrage and conversation nationwide. The world was forced to confront harsh realities about prejudice and identity, all captured in that one unforgettable moment. Just 3 days later, the two officers received summonses from their department's internal affairs. A formal ethics committee hearing was called at the request of Justice Monroe himself. Investigations began immediately. The officers were placed on indefinite suspension while the case was reviewed. The incident triggered internal reviews across multiple departments. It was clear the justice system itself had been forced to face its own flaws thanks to the quiet power of one man's badge. The video ignited a firestorm of public response. Legal groups and civil rights organizations demanded immediate reform. To combat racial profiling, national news networks covered the story extensively, bringing the incident into living rooms across America. Social media exploded with debates, support, and calls for justice. People from all walks of life shared their own experiences and hopes for change. The story became more than just one arrest, was a national conversation about race, identity, and the meaning of justice. In a televised statement, Justice Monroe addressed the nation. He spoke calmly about systemic bias and the deep wounds it causes. "I did not press charges," he said. "My goal is not revenge, but dignity for everyone." He called for meaningful reform within police departments and the justice system. His words were powerful and measured, demanding respect and action. For once, the voice of justice was heard clearly by those wearing the badge. In the weeks that followed, police departments nationwide introduced new training programs on implicit bias, using Justice Monroe's story as a case study. The man once mistaken for a homeless figure returned to the streets, still in worn clothes, but now greeted with respect and recognition. His quiet courage sparked a symbol of change, inspiring communities and leaders alike. This story showed that even in the darkest moments, one person's dignity and courage can light the way toward a fairer, more just future. What would you have done in his shoes? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.